Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, and I wanted to spend a few minutes with you this morning to talk about what's coming up in the next several Wednesdays, because we're going to be talking about wisdom and how God's wisdom applies to our lives in very specific ways. We tend to think of wisdom as kind of a well that we go to every once in a while when we need it. If we have a relationship struggle or a situation in our lives that we can't figure out, we go to God. If we have a major decision in our lives, we go to the well and we draw from it. James tells us in chapter 1 of his book, he says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men liberally and doesn't hold back. And that's true. And so in those special matters of life, we should seek God for his wisdom. However, the book of Proverbs, which is what we'll be using as our Wednesday study, the book of Proverbs takes a larger view of wisdom, because the book of Proverbs talks about the wise life, the wise person. In fact, the book says there are only two kinds of people. There is the wise person and the foolish person. It was written by Solomon, and you'll remember him because at a time early in his life, as he was the king of Israel, taking over from his father David, God said, I'll give you anything you want. God promised him anything, just a blank check. Ask what you want. And Solomon did not ask for the life, for a long life, or for the life of his enemies. Instead, he asked for wisdom. And so God gave it to him. And then Solomon wrote the book of Proverbs to share that wisdom with us. At the very beginning of the book, Solomon tells us why he wrote it. He said, so that you would receive wisdom and instruction, that you would understand words of insight, and to know wisdom and instruction for wise dealing, righteousness, justice, equity. Those are some of the things that are being talked about in our society today. How relevant is that? Social justice, equity among people. And Solomon literally wrote the book on these things. And so we're going to dip into it every Wednesday. And because we want to be wise people, not foolish people. And so where do you begin? Well, maybe the obvious answers, or the answers we might come up with, or the world might come up with, is you begin with education. You begin with a good education, high school, maybe college, maybe get a degree, or maybe the internet. There are a lot of places the world goes for wisdom. But that's more knowledge than wisdom. The wisdom, as Solomon says in verse 7 of chapter 1, comes from God. He says, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And so we begin by understanding that there is a God who calls us to account, who holds us accountable for the way we live our lives. We can live it foolishly, we can live it wisely, and Solomon shows us how to do the latter. And so we're going to dip into that on Wednesdays from now on for the immediate future. Tonight we have Let's Talk, which is where we discuss 3 questions relating to Sunday's message. And so we're going to go a little bit deeper on the subject of giving, and those questions are in this post for you. And then on Saturday, if you can join us, we're going to finish painting the balcony and the steps out front of the church, or I guess out in back of the church, depending on how you look at it. So anyway, also I'm going to share on Friday some other things that are coming up. So hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. Live your life wisely with the wisdom of God. God bless.